joke. I don't know whoever spoke, saying you can have our kids, but they are fired. We have rights that we stand on. Time for CPS to be gone. Their services are no longer wanted. There is no reason for our kids to be taunted. Stay away, EPS. You have no authority. You hear is waxing war on me. Leave now before things get bad. My Constitution came from a revolution, defending the family as the foundation of our freedom. It gives us the way to beat them, so be aware, don't tread on me. I am the Punisher and follow my warning. I have the posse with me, so get to conforming. I'm all systems go, and we are ready for blast off. Is hiding behind the night, giving EPS a hell of a fight. He's not backing down while they try and steal his freedom. So challenge his will and feel his wrath. Our bird is watching every move, making sure EPS doesn't screw the pooch. He knows the laws and enforces them. DPS, watch out, get off the porch, you can't come in. Danielle is fired up, looking for action. She hates CPS with a great passion. She'll fight all night if it needs be. Fighting APS is where she should be. Gunner is fierce with his knowledge, pretty good for a guy with no college. He was quiet until they ruffled his feathers. Now he's pissed and won't stop until it's over. We all have come together to fight this enemy. Together we will win for you and me. Our kids will come home. Let the truth be known. EPS, you never had authority. This is more than important to me. Return our kids home. We don't deserve to be alone. We are all EPS punishers throughout the world. Our voices heard. We stand with a message. CPS needs to learn. Fuck around and find
Hey guys, just fair warning, if it's a little fuzzier in or out, the channel's been having some issues, and I am mobile using my phone's hotspot because I am at work tonight. We're just going to go over a few things, both just for everybody and a couple of my personal things, since some of you are there too. For those of you that don't know, I am in Alabama, and my issues lie in a county that I don't even reside in. But earlier today, I made a video that I put on TikTok and on Facebook about how if you have your parental rights, you have the right to your child's school records and their medical records, unless there is a court order saying specifically that you can't have them. This is true if you have, sorry, I have to fix myself. If you have a court case, whether it be with the other parent, CPS, a third party, whomever. There were some people that were wanting to argue with me about it. Firstly, the right to have your child's school records is a federal right under the FERPA Act, FERPA. This act specifically states whomever has parental rights of the child, whether they have custody or not. Again, I'm paraphrasing, and before anybody gets funny, I'm not an attorney, a lawyer, any of that. This is my understanding and from what I have read and things of that nature. It states if you have parental rights, whether you have custody or not, you have the right to your child's school records, unless there is a court order stating that you do not have the right to have them, which means a judge would have to sign that. From what I am seeing in Alabama, I have yet to find anybody who a judge has signed off that they can't have their child's school records. However, I also have not met anyone who has a CPS case in Alabama who has their child's school records, whether they have asked for them or not. Many times they're being told by the school system that their child attends, or by DHR/CPS, you can't have those records, or you have to subpoena those records, or this, that, or the third. No. You have the right to them. And as far as medical records, that is the same thing. In many cases in Alabama, CPS is telling these parents, oh, well, we don't know if we have the records, or no, those records are CPS property. Hold on. A child's medical records is CPS's property if their medical records are your property. Are you considering the children your property too? That's unacceptable. They will often tell these schools and these doctors' offices and medical providers, the children, don't give the parents this information if the parents contact you. We as DHR/CPS say no. Some people have even been told by medical providers, your children are under protective custody. You can't have that information. Again, unless there's a court order saying you can't have it, you have a right to that. And not only that, the whole point is for your children to come home, regardless of why they were removed, unless it was something absolutely horrific. And the point of that is, you cannot accurately and adequately prepare for your children to come home if you do not have their medical records, if you do not have their school records. If you don't have these things, you don't have their medications, their diagnosis, whatever the heck has happened to them. You don't have their grades. any notes from a counselor or a teacher or any suspensions or any of that, you cannot adequately take care of a child if you don't know about that child, even if it's your own child. So just keep in mind, you have a right to these things. The FERPA Act for school records, that is a federal law. The medical records would fall more under your constitutional rights as a parent, from my understanding. If anyone else that's on wants to hop in, that's cool. I'm trying to think. This also not only goes for their medical records, again, unless there is something that says you cannot go, something from a judge, a court order, not CPS's YAP. You have a right to go to your children's medical appointments and to be told about them. Keep these things in mind and be sure to request their records, because many times things may be omitted to the records or added in there that are not true. And that's a problem. Not only for you to be able to take care of your child accurately, these children's medical records, they're going to need their entire life. If nobody has them, or they're messed up, or they're incorrect, how is that taking care of the child? How is that in the best interest of the child, as they say? I find that and neglectful if CPS is not taking care of these things. And in that regard, last week, myself and a few other advocates from Alabama went to Montgomery. They are working on a bill in Montgomery, again, I'm in Alabama, that outlines some requirements for CPS. The thing is, most of these requirements are already outlined by the law and by their own policy. However, these things are typically not being followed, comprehended, cared about. I don't know. There are a few added requirements. However, it's nothing massive, nothing that would be a major overtaking. The committee that's working on it is tweaking some language. Hey, Chris. They're tweaking some language on it currently. And we listened while they were going over some wording that they were concerned about. And part of the wording is that CPS is required to give parents information about why they're being investigated, about basically their investigation report. In that, they should be providing what is going on and why they're being investigated. The wording of this bill states, unless there is SA or another crime taking place. And then in those cases, the investigation reports would be handed over to the local authorities. That sounds great, correct? While we were sitting there, a representative from the southern half of Alabama asked, and he was not joking, he asked, well, children aren't being removed unless there's a criminal component to the investigation, correct? I had to hold my tongue and wait till they were done for me to go speak to him. I told him about my case. I told him about Chris out of Talladega County, who is now deceased due to what happened to his family. He took his own life. I told him that there were hundreds of other families that there were no criminal allegations and or no criminal or evidence of these criminal allegations. and these children are still being removed. These children are not necessarily accounted for. These children are not returning home. These children are being TPR'd and adopted out for no reason other than for the money. And that is unacceptable. I explained that, and he was absolutely appalled and did not understand. But when he had originally asked the question in the representatives meeting, one representative stated, well, if there's drug use is criminal in the state of Alabama and in most other states in America. Someone said, well, physical abuse, but like light physical abuse. And then she kind of trailed out because she realized that, again, it's criminal to harm someone, to physically harm someone. Someone else said, well, if your house is dirty, not like unlivable dirty, but like dirty, which that would be really objective, depending on whoever is making that decision. And when he spoke to me, he pointed out that all of these things that they listed were also criminal activity. And he did not understand how or why children would be being removed unless there was a criminal component with evidence. Another representative said, well, DHR is so short-staffed, and where are they going to get the time and the resources and the money to do all of this documentation and do this and do that? The representative that introduced the bill paused for a minute and looked at her, and I feel that he wanted to tell her, who gives a care if they're short-staffed? Figure it out, do your job. But what he said was, there's plenty of money for that. Yes, Amy White, the FERPA Act is a federal law that protects the privacy of student education records. And you're correct, it does grant parents and students the right to these education records. And that was what I was saying. Correct. Any institution that receives funds from the U.S. Department of Education. It gets a little wonky if there is a private school or something involved, because sometimes they take federal funding, sometimes they don't. But in retrospect to the state of Alabama, there is now the CHOOSE Act, which is federal funding. So if a private school is taking the CHOOSE Act or one of the lunch programs or any of that, if they get even federal funding, parents and eligible students have the right to affect. Yes, Amy. But again, back to that meeting, the one representative was worried about CPS being overworked. Well, if they weren't erroneously picking up all these children, that would not be. Amy, you can request records be amended through the FERPA Act. Alabama claims to have over 6,000 or around 6,000 foster children. I have asked since December. I've asked to the point that I have quit asking, because I know they see my questions and they've yet to answer them. I don't know if this 6,000 includes just foster children whose parents still have rights. I don't know if this includes the children that are in the Heart Gallery of Alabama, which is their pity adoption site that looks like an animal shelter site. I don't know what they've got going on. They did not disclose if this included those over the age of 21 who may be in care for various reasons. I've also noticed in the last 8 months, probably, throughout the state, because I travel some for work, hence why I'm in my car tonight, billboards for adult foster care, for like elderly foster care, that say things like, wouldn't you love to help somebody's grandma by allowing them to live with you? Or things that would paraphrase. Stop. I think Alabama is starting to notice parents are starting to get smart and protect their families and protect their children. That I believe that Alabama has decided that the elderly is the way to go. Because we live in the South. There's an abundance of elderly people, many of which have little to no resources, and their family have little to no resources. So they're making money off of them. And in many cases, getting their retirement checks, their disability checks, their pensions, what have you, their homes, all of that. The bill I was talking about, it probably will be a bit before they vote on it in committee. It is HB 340. Let me double check that real quick. Yes, it's HB 340 that we're working on in Alabama. Erica, I did not, first of all, welcome. Secondly, I did not know that they put your stepson in the Heart Gallery back in February of last year. That's ridiculous. It's a pity puppy site. That's all it is. It's disgusting. And guess what? Despite all of the money they get per foster child, most of the time they do not pay for these Heart Gallery sessions. They will put out posts to the community. Hey, local photographers or photographers that are near this town, this town, this town, this town, and this town. Would you be interested in donating a day or a couple of hours of your services to help the foster children in your community? It is tax deductible. Yappity yap. Asking for free services. First of all, you should not be putting children on a animal shelter kind of site. Hold on, Laura. I'm trying to see what you're saying. Laura, what are you saying about edited IEPs? I'm not sure. That's great that you got good pictures. That at least is a plus. But they don't pay the money for that. Many times, CPS and foster parents post, oh my goodness, I got an emergency placement, or oh my goodness, I'm about to be licensed as a foster parent. Please donate XYZ QFE. We need these things for our future foster children. You can't provide for extra children you want in your home. CPS can't provide for them. You're asking the community, and not only do I have the question of where this money for these children is going if it's not being spent on them, because yes, unlike many states, Alabama does not provide food stamps for foster children. They get free breakfast and lunch at school if they're school age. If they're daycare age, they typically get put in daycares that provide breakfast and lunch. So you're telling me that the $500+ they receive a month only pays for dinner for these children because they're getting everything else free? There are entire foster closets in multiple counties. And people will ask, well, where should I donate my stuff? In local mom groups or local community groups. And people are always suggesting the foster closets. It sounds like a sweet idea. It sounds so helpful and nice, but please don't. Please donate it to actual families in need. Not people who are holding children that 9 times out of 10 have parents or family they can go back to. And then this money that should be theirs is floating around. Many children, not just in Alabama, but elsewhere, get disability filed on them when they're in CPS care. Where's that money going? I have seen some now older teenagers / young adult former foster youth on the internet that file to get their disability because they have been so abused and neglected and screwed up by the system, only to find out that they've been receiving disability for the last 3, 5, 10, 15 years. And they have no access to it because many times CPS won't give them a paper saying that, or whatever they need to say, for them to get their benefits. I have recently heard about CPS picking up children that they know do or may have a, what's it called? An inheritance of some sort, because if a child is in the system gets their inheritance. All of this to say that it's just not right. And it looks like they're running around and flipping money on the backs of children. Children that are often stacked up in homes with strangers and other children that they don't know, who may be other foster children or the placement's adoptive children or their biological children. Correct, Amy. And that's some of the things that they're trying to fight is the right to review and copy documents at no cost. They CPS in Alabama, as well as juvenile courts, routinely try to charge parents for these documents. Oftentimes, these are parents that cannot pay. There was another part that I was going to say. They're trying to throw a fit about the right to record them, which, if Alabama is a one-party consent state, meaning if you're in the conversation, you have the right to record and you don't have to tell the other party. They're very upset about that, and I personally have recorded many a conversation, and when I've stated I've been recording, they've refused to finish meetings. They've demanded that I'm not allowed to record. I've then informed them of my right, to which they go, well, that's not our policy because it's confidential. They just don't, in my opinion, they don't want anybody to have proof of what they did or didn't say. Thank you, Amy, for putting parts of it up here. I only got to go to Montgomery one of the days. Some of the other advocates were down for some other days. Interestingly enough, from what they have told me, some of the some of the organizations that are in opposition of HB 340 are various sheriff's departments, Alabama DHR, and a child advocacy group. The child advocacy group says that they're going to side with DHR. And DHR, in a different meeting, not a meeting I was present to, this is my interpretation of what I was told, they claimed that Children would die if they followed these things. Children are dying anyway. Children are going missing. Children are being neglected. Children are being abused. From what I'm told from another advocate, when they said that, the state DHR commissioner, Nancy Buckner, was there. And she, from what I was told, passed around photos of severely abused children, many of which were unclothed, in a legislative meeting. A meeting that, mind you, there were 2 or 3 teenagers present, aka children, because they were shadowing it on some legislative school trip thing. She claimed that these children received these injuries with their guardians. They did not clarify whether the guardians were the biological parents. They did not clarify if the guardians were other family members. They did not clarify if the guardians were a foster placement or group home. They did not clarify. There, in the last 2 years, was a little boy in northeast Alabama who was placed in foster care. I do not know why. I do not know his real name. I have been trying to find his parents. He was placed in a home. Firstly, one, he was an African American infant. The home he was placed in was a white couple. That destroys identity and culture and is unacceptable. Chances are he had a grandma and auntie, one of his parents, someone to go to, for one. For two, children are supposed to be placed in the closest replica of their home. Clearly that did not happen. This sweet baby had multiple medical issues. He was about 18 months old when he passed. He was diagnosed with some more issues, had follow-up appointments, had follow-up tests. The foster placement that was supposedly in the process of adopting him, aka buying him, stopped taking him until they took him to the hospital because he was deceased. They're going through the process of being charged with murder. The thing is, they're allowing his records to go down with the name they gave him and as that he was their child and all of that. This sweet baby deserves to be with his family, and his family deserves to know what happened to him and deserves to be able to hold Alabama DHR accountable. There was another child who is 2 children actually. In that first story happened in the Blount County area. This other story happened late last year, Fayette County. There were 2 young siblings. The little boy, he was the younger one, named Caleb, and I can't remember his sister's name off the top of my head. Anyway, they, their family apparently had dealings with CPS for, I've heard various stories of severe child abuse, domestic violence, this or that. I'm unclear. However, a couple months ago, they found the family's vehicle driven into a tree at 90 miles an hour. Daddy was in the car. 2-year-old sister was in the car. Daddy and 2-year-old sister died on impact. 2-year-old sister was in the back seat without a car seat, without a seatbelt, without anything. And died in the back seat going 90 into a tree. The mama was slung partway out of the truck. However, she did survive the ordeal. Here's the kicker. When that happened, When it happened, they thought it was the entire family. They found out several hours or the next day that the family had a 1-year-old little boy. So they went back to the site of the accident to find him, only for him to be unaccounted for. So they started searching for him. He has still not been found and is presumed deceased. My point in all of this, because this sounds like a family case, CPS had removed these 2 children from their parents and placed them with Grandpa, who the parents lived with. And from community accounts, everybody knew this. And the little boy had been missing for several months. What alerted the fact that he was missing was the car wreck the rest of his family had been in. The mother and the grandpa are being held on this, that, and the third charge. Hold on, what are you saying, Amy? And see. Yes, Amy. I'm gonna break away from what I was saying and go on to what Amy White was saying about these court cases, the right to film matters of public interest and things of that nature. I have found that speaking to people in different counties all over the state, that they run things very differently from county to county. CPS workers have been quoted saying each county can interpret things as they want to, which makes no sense to me and isn't logical. Paired with some of these counties will let anyone in the courtroom. It's semi-open public affair. And in other cases, in other counties, the parents are lucky. The parents are lucky if they get into the courtroom for their own CPS hearing. And them sharing or bringing anyone else in is basically a no-go. Some of these courthouses won't let you bring anything in. They won't let you bring anything in. They won't let you bring your recorder in. They won't let you... Sorry, I'm hitting a button I have to hit for work. They won't even let you bring in a container to carry your court documents in if you have a giant stack of them. Oh, if you drop them and mix them up, la-di-da, oh well. They do not, in my opinion, want proof of anything. And I know what Amy is quoting says the interest of the public. CPS tries to claim confidentiality of the child, blah, blah, blah. They have to hold confidentiality. The fosters have to hold confidentiality. People of that nature have to hold confidentiality. Parents, it's their children. It's their court case. If they want to broadcast it on the nightly news, that is their choice and their decision. I find these matters, especially these CPS matters of public interest. So the public can see how CPS and the judges and the guardian ad litems behave, and how they, more often than not, do not follow policies and laws. And back to Alabama, there are a lot of things that are starting to stir up. For those of you that are in Alabama or know someone in Alabama, there is a lawsuit that we're working on against a evaluator that's doing bad evaluations. These evaluations are between like 40 and 70 pages long. And he's often not even spending 45 minutes with these patients, but is doing some of those like clicky online things. He has over 200 complaints to the psychology board. Still being used. And the more concerning part is he's not just being used in the county that his office is in. He's not just being used in that county and the neighboring county. There are parents and family members halfway or a good portion across the state who are being sent to this particular evaluator. Hours away from their home. Hours away from their county. Where there are 3, 4, 5 bigger cities, counties, places that have an abundance of evaluators. But most people throughout the state are being sent to this one particular evaluator. There are parents that are starting to out all kinds of things. There are parents that have been quiet and have quietly said a few things here and there in private groups. There are parents who haven't said anything and are seeing people stand up and rise up and are saying things. Not only are these parents of people or parents of children who are teenagers or children now, these are parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and other family members of something is making noise. Okay, something else on my computer. Family members and parents and grandparents and all of the other people in your family standing up for things that happened years and years ago. Some of these cases are from the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s. Some of these parents who are standing up and grandparents who are standing up and saying, that happened to me too. Their children and grandchildren are older than I am, and I am 28 years old. I was discussing statistics on adoption and abuse and things in a Alabama Facebook group page thread the other day. And somebody brought up my personal issues. I was talking statistics. I was talking facts. You can disagree with and not like facts all day. However, that does not make them untrue, even though you don't like them. People kept bringing up my issues, so. And, hold on just a minute. I'm sorry, I've worked a lot of hours this week and I'm tired. They brought up the fact of, well, you must be lying. There must be something wrong. You must not be telling the whole truth. Because if the things you say happen, you wouldn't be the only one on here saying that. There are parents all throughout the state. There are parents that were quietly reading, quietly liking various comments of mine. There were parents who messaged me. Because that happened to them too. Or that happened to their friend, their neighbor, their cousin. My point is, it's not just one person, or 2 people, or 3 people, or even 100 people. It is happening all over Alabama and all over the country. And like the guys said on the show before me, Darren and Gunner and Mr. Herb, the louder everyone gets and the more the communities realize what's going on, the harder it is to get information out because things don't work right. Things glitch. Things crash. Those who want to say that we're unreliable and don't have factual information, they attack us more. And that's unacceptable. But when you are putting things in the light and stating facts and educating people attacking you It's proof that you're going the right way. It's proof that you're educating people and that somebody doesn't want you to tell them. There are all kinds of parents coming forward. Grandparents. I met a grandparent the other day that doesn't understand why. That didn't understand how deep it was. She knew it was deep. She did not know it was that deep till we spoke. I run into people every day. Everywhere. Doesn't matter where in the state I'm at. I could be in a gas station. I could be on the phone walking through a grocery store or any other kind of store. I could be anywhere, and I see it. I hear it. People hear me talking when I'm on things like this, which I'm not walking through a store right now. It's midnight. But often when I discuss things with other advocates or with my best friend on the phone, in public, on purpose. And the thing is, these people are not just hearing my side of what I have to say. They're hearing whoever is on the device with me. Because my phone only works on speaker. Something is wrong with it. But guess what? Private conversations are had in private, and conversations that the public needs to know are held in public, where the public can hear them if they so choose, and if so, they're so inclined. But like I said, the more we out things, the more people come for us, the more people lie. Hold on, Amy. Alabama Rule 660-5-34-.05. Investigative/initial assessment process. Video and audio tapes may be used to record interviews. Parental consent for photographs, video, and audio taping not necessary. If a parent refuses to permit photographs or taping, the worker believes that photographs or taping is necessary. Law enforcement should be contacted or court action should be explored. Hey, Debbie. I know you sent me something yesterday or today or I don't know what day. I'll get back to you. But in short, people are rising up. People are educating each other. People are saying what's going on. And I personally think they're absolutely concerned. I've heard that cases in Alabama are going before the appellate court. They're being overturned. TPRs are being flipped back to where the parents have their rights again. Children are going home. I'm not sure what you're saying. An IEP like at the school for special education or an ISP with CPS, Debbie? Message me. Those are two very different documents. Message me. Another thing, not just in Alabama, but in other states, you would have to find your specifics. I found out that many of the states' offices and county CPS offices have meetings every so often that are required to be public. And they're supposed to allow people to speak if they want to. Find out when those meetings are in your area. I'm having trouble finding it, so if anyone finds the Alabama ones, definitely send them to me. For those of you that are in Alabama, Alabama State DHR is having one April 24th in Montgomery. Message me if you need the details. From my understanding, they do not Zoom these meetings out, which is very concerning because that means that it's very difficult for anyone in the public to see, to hear, or to be present for. We've looked for several counties meetings and can't find them. We're still working on that. Your states also have a, what's it called? The psychology board, psychiatry board. They have meetings every so often too that you can speak at. Some different places will have requirements of, well, you have to have filed this, or you have to ask to speak, or things of that nature. So keep that in mind. However, get out there, speak, talk to. Correct, they're not going to tell us that they have these public meetings. I got told from a very specific source, who I cannot out their identity due to to keep them safe. We're almost to the end of the show. Debbie, I'm not sure what you're asking about an IEP. Message me. I know a little about IEPs, but not fully my field. And again, before anyone asks, I am not an attorney. I am not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. I'm not any of that. I'm just a parent who is going to stand my ground for my children, as well as all of the other children who are being harmed and neglected and abused by this system. Laura, you're welcome to message me too. I'm not 100% sure what you're talking about because messages are coming in all out of order. But definitely. But my whole point tonight was, there are things moving. There are things shaking. Stand up, be a voice, help. There are new people speaking every day, whether that be privately to a few people or whether they whether they speak to a few people or whether they speak out in public. And a lot of people are trying to claim that these issues are bad deadbeat mother issues or that kind of crap, or dangerous father issues. That's not the case. And they're used to moms standing up. There are more and more dads standing up every day too. So if you're a dad or you know a dad that this is happening to, they don't have to be quiet. There are plenty of dads on this channel. There are dads that I'm seeing more and more come out public. And one thing that's not going to happen is they are not going to silence the hundreds, possibly even thousands of parents and older foster youth and former foster youth and even little bitty foster kids who want to speak, who want to tell of what's happening, who have evidence of what's happening, who have evidence of the broken laws, who have evidence of the abuse and neglect. It's going to stop. It has to stop. All it's doing is hurting children, hurting families. And that's unacceptable. I think that's where I'm going to end tonight. If anyone has a question or is in Alabama and wants to speak to Alabama people or just wants to speak, I'm here. I'm at work tonight, so I will be up all night. Gunner, you scared me. Thanks, guys. Here soon. I will be back on my regular Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m., but this is the time that worked for now. Hopefully, talking about the FERPA Act and things of that nature helped. And again, if you need help or just want to talk, you can reach out to me or anyone else on the channel. Thank you.
In the United States, CPS makes upwards of $3 billion per day on trafficking and selling our children. The corruption may start with the caseworker, but goes through the judicial system, passing the governor through the Senate and into the White House. The entire system has a hand in the business known as CPS.
Our children are stolen every minute of a 24-hour day. They are being robbed of their innocence, their trust, their happiness. As parents, we are isolated and betrayed by a government we trust. States are balancing budgets on kids' lives. Only 12% of the kids taken will be reunified. Title IV funding is being riveted with fraud.
We need to stop CPS and abolish CPUthis.com is leading the way. Join us.